Hello there and welcome to Coding Studio. This is B, and as promised I am making the array methods video I promised. Now in this video we are gonna be touching up on a lot, so be prepared that this is gonna be a longer video. I hope it's not gonna be over 30-35 minutes, but it just might. So please bear with me, there's a lot to discuss. So this is going to be the file that's going to go up to the GitHub repository. I just finished it, and we are going to be using these arrays in our exercise file too. So I'm just going to paste them in. We have a string array, another string array with animals in it, a number array, and then object array which contains user objects. That's all I wanted to say about the objects. You will see them in action anyway. So the first one we are going to be learning about is includes. This both work for strings and arrays too. Let's just see console.log my number array that includes, and what this does is checks the array if it includes something or not. And as you can see up here, it tells you what the return value is. It's going to be a boolean, so we are going to be searching for a number here. And I know for a fact that this array is from 1 to 9. So let's say if I say 7 in here, it's going to return true because there is a 7 in my number array. But if I were to search for an 11, it returns false because this is only 1 to 9. So that should be it about includes. This is a very simple one. Of course it works with strings too. There is no B in my number array, but in my string array there is. So let's just see. Get array. It's true because there's a B, but I know there's no J in there. So let's test that, and that's right, we do not have a J in my string array. Okay, that brings us to our next one. This is going to be find. Now this is a bit more like the other array methods I'm going to be showing to you, because it does accept callback function as an argument. So basically we are going to use my user object array, and we are going to use find. And what this does is it gets a function, and our function gets as an argument so basically as it iterates through, because it's like a loop, user is always the current value, whichever it is. So it's it gets through all the elements in an array. So the user in this case is always the current element. Oh, I wanted to delete the parentheses. Okay, because there's only one argument here, we do not need the parentheses. And here what we can do is give it a condition. So for example, if user.name equals hive, I think that's what I named it. Yep, but I'm just gonna copy paste it. So we can check it that, and find returns the first element that matches this condition here. Of course we have to return this. And let's run it, and we are gonna just comment it out. We are gonna run it, and we did not console log anything here, so I'm just gonna console log it and run it again. And as you can see, it returned the whole object because the user is the whole object. The fact that we are checking for the name does not matter in this case, because if the name equals, then it will return the whole object when it finds it. So basically, the find needs a function that returns either true or false, and you can set the conditions to your liking. In this case, if name is beehive, then it returns a true. If it's not, it's a false. And when the first time it returns true, it will give back the response. As you can see, the last one is near wasp, so I'm just gonna paste it here, and it finds the last one, because when it gets to the last one, that's the only time it will return true for this condition here. An easier way to write this is actually without the return or the curly brackets or braces, like that. This is a faster way of using it, and while we are at it, we can use object deconstruction or destructuring, sorry. And since we are interested in the name, we can just delete user here, because as you know, it gets an object and we are destructuring that object because we only need the name of that object, and we are sure that the object that gets here has a name, because each and every one has the name in it. And if name equals neowasp, then it will give us our answer. As you can see, it did. Perfect. That's about all I wanted to show you about false, or maybe, no, actually I can show you if this doesn't exist in the array, the condition we give, so it never returns true, it's just gonna give back undefined. Okay, so that should be about it on find. I really encourage you to play around with it, because you always have to practice when you learn a new thing. I mean, if it's new for you, of course. If it isn't new, then you don't have to practice it, though I still encourage you, because you can forget these stuffs. In fact, I forget them a lot. I always check the documentation, what needs what and what does it return. Okay, for the next one, let's do reverse. As the name suggests, all it does is reverses the order of the array. So I'm gonna log it out, and we are gonna use my string array, and then we are gonna call the reverse on it, and just like that. As you can see, it's ADGC blah blah blah, and when I run the program, it's ADGC BFE. So as you can see, it reversed it, but if I sort the array first, so I'm just gonna sort it, that's an array, another array method, I'm gonna get to it later because this is a bigger one than reverse. I'm just gonna sort it to alphabetical order and then reverse it so you can see it better. As you can see, A, B, C, D, E, F, G reversed. So that's basically it about reverse. It's not that difficult. Okay, let's go to slice. Now this is not too big, but you have to play around with it a bit so you understand it perfectly. So we are gonna, for the slice, we are gonna use another array, not the string or number. We are gonna use this because it's easier to remember. Okay, slice is actually pretty simple. So let's use the animals array. We are going to use slice on it. And here, as you can see, it tells me what I need to put in here. Start and end. If I actually slice it without doing anything, it basically just creates a copy of my array. And yeah, it's basically useless because you're never going to use this method to copy your array. So we can give it a start value, let's say 1, and an end value, let's say 3. Now what it does is, of course these are indexes, so array indexes. So what this means is it's going to start from array index 1, which is the second element of the array, and stop at array index 3, but it's not gonna include the fourth element of the array, but it's gonna include the first one. So from including the first one, it's gonna go to the third one, but not including it. So if we run it, as you can see, wasp bumblebee, let's check our array, including the second one, but not including the fourth one. So this is index 1, this is index 3, and it's included, this isn't, and everything in between is included. So that's the basic way slice works, but you do not necessarily need to give both our arguments. We're gonna slice it, and we are just gonna put 1, and we're not gonna use the 3 there, the second parameter. Let's run it, and as you can see, it was bumblebee hornet fly, which means it only jumped over the first element of the array, which is basically what we expected. Another one would be what happens if I put the bigger index in front. Actually, the perfectly logical thing will happen, because if you start at 3, you are never gonna reach 1, so it's not gonna give back anything. But let's check it. Of course, this is an empty array. Now there is a way to count back, but okay. Now another way, so we are gonna get to it, animals.slice, and we can give negative numbers here. Now what that does is, as you can see, the last elements of these are was bumblebee hornet fly, and -3, what it does, it will give back the array first, second, these two. So these are, and in this order, hornet fly, because it counts back that 2 from the end and starts there. And of course it always includes the first one, so it's gonna be the last 2 elements. It goes the same for 3, and so on. Now if I were to give a second argument for this slice, for example -3, no, actually let's go with -4 and 2. Now let's visualize what will happen. So what is the 2 index? 0, 1, 2, it's bumblebee. What is -4? 1, 2, 3, 4. It always includes the first argument, so this is -4, it's gonna be there. And this is 2, but it never includes the last index. So we will only get back wasp if I am correct. Yes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, starting here, up to here, up to but not including to here. That's how it works. To make it maybe a bit better, let's just add one more. Was bumblebee, because 1, 2, 3, 4, not including 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, including 4, as you can see. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to say about slice, so let's jump to the next one. If I remember something else, I will be sure to tell you. Okay, the next one after slice, let's go with join. That's actually a very simple one. Join. Let's use the string array here, but I'm gonna comment these out real quick. I'm gonna log it out, of course, and let's use my string array dot join. Now it exactly says what it does actually. It's gonna join the array, so it gets the array and then compresses it to one string value. Now if you leave the parenthesis empty, it's gonna use commas to join it, which means that between every value there is gonna be a comma, but it's gonna be one string value here. So this is one string and it inserted comma between every element of this array. Now if you don't want that, you wanna cleanly join it together, you just give it an empty string, and the argument that you give join is gonna be what it puts between the elements of the array. So if it's an empty string, so there is nothing in there, it is gonna be nothing in between them. If you want the space between them, you can just put a space in there, and it's gonna do that, as you can see. So that's about join. It's a very simple one and a rather useful one. I've used it quite a number of times, especially lately. And after join, there's going to be another relatively simple one. It's going to be for each. This is, I've already talked about it in the loop videos, for loop, but let's just say that I'm going to use my animals array again. Then for each, it takes a callback function, and here we go. So for each element, I want to log out each element. That's the easiest example. Of course, it doesn't have to be element here. You can name it whatever you want. Animal. This is a parameter, not an argument, so, but I have to use animal here too if I type animal there. So what it does is for each element, or for each animal, it's gonna log out animal. So it's gonna go through the array and put out my animals one by one to the console, as you can see. It's pretty simple. You can actually put logic in there. So if animal includes b, then what I want you to do is console.log. We are going to player and the templating string the animal is pretty awesome. Else, so if it doesn't contain b or include b, I want to console.log the animal is not so cool. And if I run my code again, as you can see, the bee is pretty awesome, the wasp is not so cool, the bumblebee is pretty awesome, as you can see both have bee in them, and then the hornet is not so cool, the fly is not so cool. So you can put your logic in here. So basically you can think of for each as, for each animal I want to console log that animal. You can make a nice sentence out of it, and then you already know what to do. So that's about for each. I think it's relatively simple. Now after for each, we are gonna jump into sort. I already mentioned that. This is not that hard either. You can use it as is, but we are gonna jump into how the sort actually work. So first let's just sort my string array. As you have already seen that work actually, but console.log, oh, I don't want console.log, my string array dot sort. Let's see, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now, sort works in a way that it takes two elements, the current and the next element, and compares them, and if the first element is the current element is bigger than the next element, then it's going to return 1. If it's smaller, it's going to return -1. If it's equal, it's going to return 0. And based on that, it's going to put them into order. So to write the same thing as up here, I'm just going to show it to you real quick. My string array dot sort. Here we take the function, create the function. Now we have A and we have B, or actually current value and next value. And what we are going to do, we are just going to create a small if statement here. If current value is bigger than next value, then return 1. I'm just gonna copy paste this line and just gonna switch this. If current value is smaller than the next value, I want to return -1, and if none of them is true, I am just gonna return 0. So this is our default case right now, and this does exactly the same thing. Let's just I'm gonna log it out to the console so that you can see console.log, and it doesn't matter that these are string values because it has a way to compare them. And as you can see, it does the same thing as the above example. And now you can actually have some real fun with sort, because now you know the logic. So you can actually write your own logic when to return 1, when to return -1, and you can basically sort anything with this, not just letters and numbers. So it's going to be really useful later on. I really encourage you to practice it. Check other codes on Stack Overflow, how they use sort. Go to Code Wars to exercises and use sort as much as possible, because if you learn how to use it really well, it's going to be a very useful thing. Now, it's easier when you sort numbers. Actually, I'm going to show you what happens if you sort numbers. We have a number array, of course. My number array dot sort. Right off the bat, it's gonna make it sorted perfectly. As you can see up top, it isn't sorted yet, and now we sorted it. Now this uses a different callback function. It takes A and B, current and next value, and returns A to B. And it will decide whether it's a 1 or -1 to return. So it will do the same thing. And actually it's very easy to reverse it. It's B to A. And that way it just changes the order. So it's a bit easier with numbers, but you will get the hang of it pretty easily. Okay, let's just comment it out. Okay, the next array method is gonna be every, and it's useful. I don't use it too much, neither do others, but this is actually useful because in cases it comes handy. So it's worth to know. So let's log it out first thing, And we are going to use my string array here, and we are going to use every, and we're going to give it a callback function. Let's say every element. This is going to be our parameter here, so it doesn't have to be element or anything. You can name it yourself depending on the contents of the array. And what it does, every checks every value. If the condition you give it is met every time, it's going to return true. If even once the condition isn't met there, it's going to return false. So an easy way to check that is every element, actually type of element. I've talked about it before. Type of returns the type of the thing that it's before. So because it's a string array and we know that every element in there is string, we know that it's gonna be string all the time. Type of element equals string. That's our condition here. And if we run that code, what's the problem? Oh, I didn't close the console log. Okay, if we run it, we are gonna get true, false. Oh, because there's no such a thing as element, because I am using elem in here. True, just as we predicted it. So this is actually pretty simple. Now, if just to get a false, let's use the animals array. Okay, and we are not going to use type of this time. So let's say animal that includes b. We have used that before. Why do I have 3 parentheses here? Oh, okay. So if every animal includes b, it's going to be true. If not, it's going to be false. Let's see. And this is false, of course, because amongst my animals there's only 2 that matches this condition here. As we know, includes returns a true or false. So this is going to be an evaluated condition right off the bat. Now, if we want to see if some have it, it doesn't have to be every element to have b in it, only some. We have actually another array method that's called sum. I'm actually just going to copy this. And that's the next one, sum. And we are going to just replace this with sum. Works the same way as every, only it isn't as strict as every, because for it it's enough if some of them have it, some of them don't. That doesn't matter. As long as at least one has it, then it's gonna return true. We can check that. I'm gonna comment this out first. So we should see true, because 2 elements has it, but no elements has it with this many e's, so this will be false this time. So that's every and that's sum. They are fairly useful. I think you're gonna meet these kind of codes quite a few times in the future. And now we come on to map, and that's, I think, undoubtedly is the one that you're gonna use most. So let's just go with it. Let's see, I am gonna use my user object array, and I am gonna map it. And as you've seen with a few before, it takes a callback function. Now this is gonna be user, and what I'm gonna do is I am gonna change the array, the objects in the array themselves. So what I want to do, if let's say if the registration year is below 2010, I'm gonna upgrade my users to premium. Let's say that. So if user dot registration year is smaller than 2010, then what I want to do is user dot premium equals true. If no, it's not gonna happen, so it doesn't matter. I'm not gonna say user premium false. I'm just gonna add the premium property to the ones that it's true for, and then I'm gonna return user, because map needs the whole user to be returned. Because what you do is take the user, you or the element of the array, you change the element of the array, and then you return the changed element. So if we run it, we don't get anything back because we didn't log out anything. I am just gonna log out my user object array, run it, and as you can see, the ones where it's below 2010, a new property appeared called premium, where there is no, where it's above 2010, there is no premium. As you can see, 2006 premium true. So it works as intended. So this is how you use map. You take something, you change it, you return it back. So that should be the main way to use map. Of course, there's a lot of ways to use it. This is the basic, this is how I use it, and of course variations of it. I use it a lot in React actually. Okay, the next one is gonna be filter. I'm just gonna comment this out. We have used filter in the problem solving, I think 2 times if I remember correctly, and this is a fun one. It's not very difficult in a way that it works. What you can filter is basically how filter works is you give it a callback function. If that returns false, that means that the current element is not going to be in the array. If it returns true, then it's going to be in the array. So let's go with user, I'm going to log this out, my user object array dot filter, and what I want to filter for this time is let's say age. So user and what I want to do is if user dot age is smaller than 18, then I want to return true. I mean false, because if it's under 18 I don't want to put it in the array, else I want to return true. So if it's equal or above, they are gonna be in the array. If it's 18 or lower, they aren't. So let's run it, and if I pull this up, as you can see, 49, 37, 60 and 21, all of them are above 18, and as you can see, there was a 12, there was 17. They got kicked out of the array. Now you can use this a bit differently. Let's say I want to create a filter for obscene or swear words, and let's say I've prepared for this one. So as you can see, there is duck and there is pucking, and I want to filter for those in the username. So what I'm gonna do is filter user and if user dot username dot includes, we are going to use includes here because as I said, it works on strings too. Let's say duck or I'm gonna copy this. These two pipe operators is called OR, and to and is AND. You can, in this case, you can use both, but you have to change the stuff. And I'm gonna say puck. If it includes duck or puck, I wanna return false. Else, of course, I wanna return true. There are a lot of ways to. Oh my god, how ugly that is. Sorry, I just have to. Almost there we go. Okay, that looks better, but not too much. Okay, so what it does is checks if the username includes duck, or checks if the username includes puck. If it includes either one of them, it's going to return false, which means they won't get into the array. Every other case, it's going to return true. So if we run it, oh, that's not the one I wanted. I'm going to open the terminal. Great. Okay, as you can see, the usernames, none of the username contains any of those words. Another way would be, if I were to want to use AND instead of OR, I would put these here. And but this is not, I prefer the other way. So what this exclamation mark here means, that it changes a boolean value to its opposite. So username includes duck. If that's true, I'm gonna change it to false. And this is false. So if there is no duck and there is no puck, I wanna return true. Every other case, I wanna return false. So it does basically the same thing, only I changed the logic to its opposite. But it works the same way. So that's how you use filter. I mean, that's the basic way to use filter. Back to the previous logic, actually, I forgot to mention one thing about the age. Now, it's pretty, you can write it down pretty easily, actually. So, console filter, okay. User.age is bigger than 18. That's everything you need here, because this evaluates to either true or false, and if it's bigger than 18, then it's going to return true, which means it's going to be in the array. Every other case, it's not. So this is the same logic as the big if else I've just shown you, but I wanted to show you the logic and then how to execute it nicely. Run it, and as you can see, 2160, 3749. So that's filter, and for our last array method for today, I'm gonna use reduce. To be perfectly honest, I don't really use reduce, very rarely, actually. In the problem solving video, I could have used reduced, but I forgot about it for that time and I didn't. So, how you use reduce? Let's console log, and we are going to use my number array, and then we are going to reduce. And what this does, so as you can see, it has a pretty it's not right. Okay, this is not previous value, this is an accumulator. Okay, so you don't trust what's there. So this is the accumulator, and this is gonna be the current value, we are going to put this in parentheses because this is a callback function, of course. And I feel there is way too much. Yeah. So here's the parenthesis. I mistyped it. So we have an accumulator and the current value. In all other array methods we discussed, the current value was always the first parameter. Now, in this case, it's the second one. Now, this is really good for creating or summing an array's contents. So what I could just do is return accumulator plus current value, and what it does, accumulator is constant, so it starts from the first value in the array. So in our number array, it starts with 5, so it starts there and then goes to the next one, adds 9 to the 5, which is 14, then goes to the next one, adds 6 to 14, and that's the accumulator, that thing we keep adding to. So you could call it sum actually, and we are always giving our current value to sum. So basically this is a small function here to sum an array's contents, and that's what reduce is used for actually. So let's see what's the sum of our arrays. It's 45. So it's pretty simple. That's how you use it. And yeah, reduce was not terrifically hard array method to use. That's why I always forget about it. So I think that's all about array methods. I know this was a long video. I apologize. I didn't want to split this up because this is, I think it's good to learn it in one bunch. You are gonna check the documentation anyway, even if you know them, when you're working on something, so it doesn't matter. I'm gonna link the documentation to the video description so that you can find it. It's on MDN, the Mozilla developers. That's where the JavaScript documentation is. And I think about arrays, there's the W3 Schools has some documentation on it as well. They are pretty useful. You can actually try the stuff out on their website as well, and they give examples too. That's where I usually check it when I forget something about one of them. So as always, thank you for watching. If you liked it, please leave a like, subscribe. If you didn't agree or have questions, feel free to comment anything. I will try my best to reply. Not that I would be too busy. So yeah, thanks for watching, and my GitHub repo is going to be up in the video description as well. I'm going to push it up and you can check it there. It's going to be in the description. Thank you very much again for watching. See you next time.